Hello once again, and welcome everyone back. So, joining me today for a little bit of a bonus video is going to be Jake, my resident Italian. Now, we're kind of in between series at the moment. As I said at the end of getting more out of Ferdinand, Eric's on vacation. I don't really have anything else going for the moment. And I'm actually also about to go on vacation, so I'm going to do kind of these couple of random vids over the course of this week, just sort of fill the gap, and they'll be on relatively niche subjects. So this first one is one that we've actually gone over in classes before, and I think I may have even mentioned it in one of my videos, but I've never actually done a video on it. And for fun, we get to return to the dagger today. So basically, what this is, and we use this very successfully at our Ides of March dagger workshop, is called the 12 Doors to the Soul exercise. What are the 12 Doors to the Soul, besides an awesome name for a band? It comes to us from a medical text from basically the Dark Ages. Now, by Dark Ages, I'm talking about the period between the fall of the Roman Empire and the Viking Age, as we know it. But essentially, what you had in Ireland, at least, was a little mini Renaissance. A lot of old texts, etc., get preserved or expanded upon in these monasteries, and one of them is actually a medical text that talks about the 12 doors to the soul, i.e. 12 parts on the body that, if they are wounded, tend to prove fatal. Now, fatal could mean a lot of things, and as we go through them, we'll talk a little bit about that, but they are pretty straightforward, and they don't give us specifics about dagger or sword or what have you, though it doesn't really necessarily matter in this case, but we're going to go through them first. So let's talk about them. The first is going to be the crown of the head, right into that sweet spot. This could be with a stab or with a good cut straight down the middle. Nothing too complicated there. Second is actually going to be located here at the occiput, which is the little bit where your spine connects to your skull, right up through there. That'll turn his lights out. Third is going to be the hollow of the temple, so from here, or alternatively from here. Then we're going to move down into the Adam's apple, and of course anything going across that slash, what have you. Next will be into the hollow of the breastbone. This could be straight down the middle, though you can also get the same effect by going in through the side over the clavicle, basically that hollow where you can get all the way down to the internal organs. Then we're going to move down to the sternum. Now the sternum is a bit of a weird one because you would think that'd be relatively hard, but it is mostly just cartilage. You can get something to punch through square on the middle. Not to mention, even on a big guy like Jake here, there's nothing directly over his sternum. That is just bone, pretty much. Moving down, we go into the navel, it's basically straight up into the guts. That one's going to take longer, but certainly will disable him quite a bit. Next, we move into the armpit. A lot of really important stuff in there. Then we have the hollow of the arm. A lot of veins run along the inside, and that's just a general thing to keep in mind. Muscles and other such things on the outside, veins and all the important bits on the inside, since we're used to walk on all fours. Moving down, we then end up into the femoral triangle. Now, the femoral triangle is not just stabbing people in the crotch, though of course everyone likes to do that. Basically, there's a ton of big blood vessels around there that any one of them getting hit can be a really bad thing. Not to mention, of course, the inherent sensitivity of the area. So basically, I hit him there, he's not going to be happy. Moving next, we get into the hollow of the knee. Again, same thing, veins, arteries, not to mention you can get the hamstrings, etc. That disables his leg, that's going to make my life a lot easier. And then finally, the most unorthodox one, the sole of the foot. Now, all of these make sense until we get to the sole of the foot. How is that immediately fatal? Well, basically, once you take an injury into your foot, and anyone who's broken their toe can really attest to this, it is incredibly disabling. One, you can't really do anything on that foot. Two, the foot, while it is relatively well constructed, is prone to injury. You get into there and it's going to have problems functioning correctly because it is relatively thin. There's not a lot of support around it. Not to mention as well, infection. That's way down next to the ground. It's constantly getting into stuff. And if we're talking about fighting in medieval Ireland, well up until early modern era, people were going barefoot all the time. So stuff's gonna get in there. So these 12 doors to the soul make pretty good sense, right? Now, how would this influence you as a training tool? Well, if I'm learning how to fight, either on my partner or alternatively just in general, these are the places I want to focus on. We do the same thing modern day in most HEMA rules, right? We make a hit to the head worth more. Sometimes we would make a hit to the face versus the head worth more. I like our Totentons game, or things along those lines. So how can we translate this into dagger? And this actually comes from the Cattering Society. So the 12 doors to the soul exercise, the two places I'm not going to, it's really going to be more like the 10 doors. I'm not going to go for the occiput because I'd have to be behind him for that, though there are some things we can talk about for that in a second. And I'm not going to go for the sole of the foot, so we're really more doing the 10 doors. So So for this first one, what you want to do is you have your partner and you're just going to practice attacking those areas, right? So the first one's crown of the head, boom, reset, temple, reset, slash across the Adam's apple, reset, hollow of the breast, reset. This one is where I like to change the grip personally, and you want to practice changing grips and attacking most of these with variations in your grip. So I'll switch over, open up his arm, go into the armpit, cut that arm on the way back out, navel, crotch. Now this one in particular, you can attack in two very good ways since I got to get to the back. If you're attacking the right leg, you'll want to go from the inside. If you're attacking the left leg, you'll want to go from the outside if you are in sword grip. If you're attacking with ice pick grip, you'll want to go the opposite way, as that's the way that you're going to get the most strength necessary. Then you just reset. So just moving through those and attacking them with different grips and basically transitioning between them. Pretty straightforward, gets you used to targeting things. Next, you can add that with movement, so I'm just taking my shots where I can. Now, important thing with this is as we're moving around, he's not currently defending against me. I'm just taking my shots, and I'm also getting used to using my left hand. From the get-go, I never just want to go, ha, gotcha, right? You always want to be doing something to make it harder for him to escape. I like to do this in little bouts of 3. Maybe I'll attack the top 2 targets, reset, etc. And then you can start adding in opposition. Now for the opposition here, let's go ahead and switch sides as well. For the opposition, Jake's job isn't to try and disarm me or tie me up or anything. His job is to try and get away. So this also gets him used to practicing one of the more important skills, i.e. being afraid of the dagger. Absolutely, that's a big thing you got to deal with. But if I get a hold of something, he's got a lot more that he has to deal with. So he wants to break my grip as soon as possible so he can create distance. So we'll go ahead and center a little bit. But for this, I am trying to get a hit on one of all of the doors, with the exception of these 2, though in future you can lean into those. But I don't have to get them in order, and I don't only have to get them. So for example, let's say I've gotten Jake all but one of the places, and that one place is like the crux of his arms, right? Well, the meta would be to just cover that so I can't get it. Okay, just start stabbing him other places until eventually he gets sick of that. So don't get this into your head as being too gamey. I'm taking what I can get. We'll show just a little bit of opposition. Again, all Jake's focused on is getting away from me. All I'm focusing on is trying to tag one of those doors each time. Ready? All right. Good. That's just kind of how it moves around. And after a while, you switch roles, he does the same thing back to me. And with time, once you get used to that, you can start having him fighting back. In which case, as I'm trying to tag those doors, he's trying to get the dagger out of my hand. Now, the problem is, for starting off, you can treat it with all 10. Usually, if I tag 3 of them, he's lost. So we'll switch after that point. Because if you can get 3 good hits on someone, job's pretty much good. Now, the only thing I want to adjust to that is, you'll notice in that when I went for the slices, I'm not just going like that or doing a tap or things along those lines. If you're going to slice, make sure to get some good pressure on there, especially on the legs or arms, as you need to get through all of that stuff. And for the stabs, make sure you've got plenty of room, not just something light like that. But, thank you, Jake. That's going to be the 12 doors to the soul and how you can use it. I use it for the dagger drill as per the recommendation of the Cattern Society, but it can also be used, frankly, for anything. I mean, you could use it in a sword fighting rule set without difficulty. Just if you hit one of those areas of significance, give good points to it. It's a very useful thing to look at because other techniques and treatises do specifically mention sometimes aiming for these areas, but too often do we only think of this in the biggest terms, like, cut him in the head. Well, yeah, but where on the head? Skulls are relatively robust. Fiore, for example, has the very vivid down into the neck or up through the teeth or things along those lines. These descriptors can be very useful to practice, especially if you find yourself in an environment where people are just swinging at target overall. The one I see the most in this regard is upper arm. That doesn't necessarily do a whole lot that's immediately fatal. So if you start really kind of making it a bit more niche, that might encourage some, not just dagger work, but also fencing that you want to see more in line with a life or death situation. But either way, hopefully that's enjoyable for you out there, and for those of you that are practicing dagger, something new to look forward to and try out yourselves. We'll be going over some other kind of, like I said, niche things over the course of the week. I'll be making just a bunch of little videos to release. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. We'll go over some other techniques another time.